So, sorry, this is part 2. That was my housemate who came to give me some garlic. Maybe it's to ward off vampires or something. I was going to go back and look at a bit of the David Lynch interview from 2006. This is while he was working on Inland Empire. And after he'd done that Violet movie, which I haven't seen. What's it called? Anyway, here's the bit where he mentions Mel Brooks and Mel Brooks giving him the job directing The Elephant Man.
You go where the ideas take you or the inspiration, like that.
One of the most remarkable things about Eraserhead for me is that out of it, Mel Brooks offered you Elephant Man, and George Lucas eventually offered you Return of the Jedi.
Well, one thing came first. Mel Brooks, and that's another whole story, but Mel Brooks, I don't know how this beautiful thing happened, but I'm forever thankful to Mel. He took a chance on me based on what he saw in Eraserhead.
No, you can ask me another 2 questions. If they're brief, yes.
If they're brief, okay. Well, I spent an hour with David Lynch in January.
You did?
Yeah, interviewing him.
Was his button, was he wearing?
Of course it was. White shirt.
Closed, white shirt, button.
Black jacket.
Black jacket.
Incredibly nice man. Of course, we talked about the Elephant Man, and of course, you came up.
Yes? Nobody knows that I produced The Elephant Man.
Well, this is your chance
Yes.
to tell us what it was you saw in Eraserhead that you wanted to give him the Elephant Man.
You know what I saw? And that's a very good question, Stuart. What I saw in Eraserhead was symbolism that was not murky, symbolism that was clear. That baby was a monster. It took over the... I saw everything he wanted to say, so realistically and symbolically, he said very brilliantly, very clearly. And I said, this guy will be a great filmmaker. And I'm going to grab him first, and he's going to...
So it's all about monster babies.
The Elephant Man. And he came in, he helped me write it, he helped on the makeup.
That's why I posted that video where I mentioned Ashley. So there's a later bit where David talks about money.
Where there's a will, there's a way. And yet, you have to have a certain amount of good fortune to keep getting that money, or to, a lot of will to spend time to get it. Eraserhead took 5 years to make because I ran out of the American Film Institute money, and I had to raise money to shoot a scene, then stop, raise money to shoot a scene, stop, and go like that till it was finished.
So the only thing on your mind during the making of Eraserhead was actually get the film made, and anything that came up.
When you're in the middle of something, it's next door to impossible to think about another thing, another film. You just want to finish this, and that's frustrating. But there's also something good about staying in a film for a certain amount of time, because you sort of can sink deeper into it.
Can I ask you why you consider Dune a disappointment?
So there you go. And what I was going to say about my viewing history was the reason that I really needed it was that these videos about these videos about Yuri Norstein's stuff were the only record I had of them was in my YouTube history from ages back, and I managed to find them. And so the next thing I wanted to go on to was have a look at this crazy stuff with this guy Michael Bogan. And what happened was I was talking to the guy. I was in Radlett. It was late at night, and I was talking to. This was after I did that piece of video where this guy Steve was shooting and shooting his gun. It's a 2.2 rifle that he has. It was a night sight image enhancer thing. He says you can see clear as daylight any living thing. It's an infrared. So he said he knows when he's shooting at something that there's nothing living behind it. I did think of asking him if he could see me through it. Anyway, and then I went to Radlett, and there's an amazing street in Radlett that I've got to find again. Very old lane that leads down to the high street. Can't remember the name of it, but then I found this, I talked to this guy who was delivering deliveries. I don't know why he was delivering so late at night. Kind of 1 a.m. Didn't seem weird at the time. But I was talking to him, he was about the buildings, the old post office, or what is now the post office in Radlett, has another building to the left of it. And this very strange arrangement with a park bench right in front of a hedge, facing the hedge. And the only reason you'd kind of sit on that park bench with such a huge hedge right in front of you is if you didn't want anyone to see you in the streets. That's quite nice. I sat there for a while. And some people obviously sat there for quite a while drinking beer because there are hundreds of beer cans stashed away in the hedge. But sometimes builders are mentioned by name on foundation stones. The builder of the is it St. Joseph's, the Sacred Heart School? The builder got their name on I think it was the builder, the company, not the individual bricklayers. So I said to this guy, the architects and the people who pay for the building get their name on the building, but the bricklayers, they don't. And I walked off, and then the first thing I did was I then immediately saw the War Memorial in Radlett, and I went straight up to it, and I looked for the Second World War names, and the very first name I saw was Michael Bogan. Hey, Anna Bogan, Michael Bogan, who died in World War II, he wasn't a brickie, was he? I suddenly thought, I felt like somebody was telling me to look at that name. It just jumped out, but because I've got this friend called Anna Bogan. But anyway, I looked up Michael Bogan's story, and he was flying one of these with, I think, a Canadian pilot officer who was also a wireless operator and a gunner. And the two of them, the whole aircraft disappeared somewhere in the North Sea. I got the coordinates I found somewhere on a page. This is the pilot officer Joseph Alexander St. Ours, or St. Ours. I don't know how you pronounce that, probably something completely different to what I did. He also disappeared, but they were all missing, MIA, missing in action. But then after some time, I don't know how long, apparently the bodies of St. Ours and Michael Bogan were discovered. And they are interred or were cremated in England. Norwich and Norfolk Crematorium. That's where Michael Gordon Bogan lies. And Joseph Alexander St. Ours is in Northcote's St. Nicholas Church, grave 25. So they recovered the bodies of the pilot and co-pilot, but they appear not to have recovered the bodies of anyone else. Gosh, and I did find I was having awful trouble that day when I wrote this. I was having awful trouble with losing my stuff, and edits. Blogger was losing edits of mine, possibly because I had two windows open or something. Or anyway, at one point I did find an indication of the location of where it had gone down on one of these links, but I don't have it anymore. Oh yeah, here, North Sea, west-northwest of Texel, Nieuw Holland. So there's a story there. Somehow this plane went down into the sea, and everyone was MIA, and then they must have discovered the plane. I don't know, and recovered the bodies, or maybe the bodies were recovered in a raft, or maybe they had life vests on and had parachuted out, and I don't know, but you can go and look up in the records in Kew Garden, the last entry here. In Kew, they're not in the garden, they're in the National Archives, which is at Kew. This record has not been digitized and cannot be downloaded. You can order records in advance to be ready for you when you visit Kew. You will need a reader's ticket to do this, or you can request a quotation for a copy to be sent to you. And there's a reference number, AIR 8113594, and you can find out about the national record for Pilot Officer M.G. Bogan and Pilot Officer J.A. St. Ours killed, and the others missing, believed killed. So that presumably has the story, held by the National Archives, Kew. So I thought that would make an interesting real life Sapphire and Steel episode. And then when I actually looked at the Sapphire and Steel episode, in particular episode 2 of season 2, it's surprising. These guys were on anti-submarine patrol. They had 4 250-pound bombs that they were getting ready to drop on German U-boats in the North Sea. Don't know whether they did or not, but that episode of Sapphire and Steel dealt with resentment and submariners as well as airmen as well as soldiers. How bizarre. So that's enough for my second half. That's pretty much what I wanted to say, I think. I know I wanted to say a bit more about Arthur A. Wood and all the timber stuff. The reason that all that was so kind of triggering for me was the references to the character in Sylvie and Bruno is Arthur Forrester. And it's some reference to Arthurian legend and sleeping kings and things, but it's a very veiled reference. Funny island, this. Funny island. How can we end with Birdie's weird video weird short that I just watched, saying what she used to, her music as it was and her music as it is now. It's just it's like a TikTok.
Hi, I'm Birdie, and this is the music I was making then.
Come on, skinny love, what happened here? If these wings could fly.
And this is the music I'm making now. My new album Portraits is out now. Get your copy and let me know what you think.
So I got my copy. I can't figure out how to play it on my computer because computers, I'm sure they used to play CDs, but they don't automatically now. I've got to download some software to be able to play a CD. But yeah, her music is definitely, it's weird. Her videos are definitely on the weird side now.
Weird things to see on the...
Hi, I'm Birdie.
Yeah.
This is the music I was
I really don't like this shorts interface. Look, they deliberately leave the bottom half there so that you move your mouse down and you get the next one and you start doing this thing going through them all. And the next thing I wanted to show was Jonna Jinten.
So I started walking down to the river, but as I came really close and I started walking upon this huge rock, I started sensing something. It was as if I, for the first time in my life, could feel that the mountains in front of me was alive. So when I stood there on that rock, it was as if I felt how the mountains were sending out some kind of frequency. And the best way I can describe it is as if the mountains were humming, like very deep humming. Like, I can't even make it that deep. It was very strong. And so I started walking down to the river.
I haven't watched her recent videos about her trip. But all that just made me think of Bolivia. You compare what I was writing before I went to Bolivia and what I wrote when I got there. So that's it.